Coming from Chartres ancestors, we give thanks for the gifts received, for the golden threads that connect us heart to heart, life to life, vision to vision, in the spirit of reconciliation, with reverence and respect. We look back on all that we received and what we gave, whether present in person or in our heart or thoughts. We're one. In the love and the light of that sacred hill of Chartres, of our ancestors, of the angels, of God, of the saints, the mystics, the Chartrean masters, the Gaul and Druid, all who have come to this place and been touched and opened. The way reveals herself to us now in this circle, in this conversation, in this morning. Ah, Mama. Ooh, I know.
Thank you, Apela. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, everyone, for joining our September call. We're mindful that we gather today on September 11th, the 21st anniversary of the bombing of the World Trade Tower. So we want to bring in that awareness as we gather today and welcome all of you in the aftermath of an extraordinary gathering in Chartres between the 12th and the 18th of August, just about a month ago. We want to welcome you, those of you who were there, those of you who may not have been there but have been to Chartres before, and those of you who are new. Every month we gather as a community in the spirit of the sacred site of Chartres, dedicated as it has been for thousands of years to an adoration of the sacred feminine in order to transform ourselves into a more fully humane way of being in the world. One of the things that we brought into Chartres this year that was new, but came through as a very important additional practice in a world that, as all of us know, whether it's climate, whether it's geostrategic balances of powers and war, whether it's economics, finances, racism, the world is deconstructing. The world is spinning out of control. Turbulence is rising everywhere. And so we brought into Chartres this time coherent breathing, because the more turbulent our external environment becomes, the more we need to become coherent inside to enable us to be able to navigate through the chaos with an equilibrium of psyche and soul, an abundance of heart, and an integration of our interior realms so that we can manifest compassion to our community and friends in the exterior. And there's a particular kind of breathing that we breathe. It's called coherence breathing. And you breathe in for about 5.5 seconds. You breathe out for about 5.5 seconds. And the equal breathing, slowly in, slowly out, to the sound of bells that we're going to hear in just a moment, will calm your being. It will create coherence between your heart and your mind. It will balance your parasympathetic and your sympathetic nervous systems. It animates all the different systems in your body to a higher level of coherence. We're going to do it for 3 minutes, and then we will begin our program, but we want to begin our community call as we came into Chartres this time with one breath. And through that one breath, share one heart in the regeneration of love through apology and reconciliation and healing. And after the breathing, then we'll reflect together. We'll break into small groups to just remember what was our experience there in Chartres. We'll hear from various faculty. Then we'll turn our attention to the future, because something very powerful was experienced in Chartres around apology. And out of our commitments on the final day came an impulse to convene a global day of apology next May 26th. So we're going to talk more about this, so that we have a very full program, but welcome all of you. And now let us just take a few minutes, close your eyes, and let us just simply breathe as one. Thank you, everyone. So powerful to breathe together. And the icon that Georg put up while we were breathing is the orbital pathway of the planet Venus as it circumnavigates the sun. You know, none of the planets circumnavigate the sun in a perfect circle. And as Venus goes around the sun, it's in a spiral and it forms a 5-pointed star. And the coherence breathing is to the count of 5.5, and the number of the goddess Aphrodite is 5. So while we were in Chartres, we were contemplating apology and reconciliation and healing as a way to regenerate love after the scourge of the pandemic. And we were doing it to the coherence breathing, and we were breathing in the mother and breathing out the mother and the goddess. And it was a powerful, powerful way for us to unite 2 or 3 times a day. And I think that was one of the reasons why it was such a powerful experience for, I think, all of us who gathered. So we thought that what we would do as we opened every day while we were there, is just allow us to break into small groups. And we know that you could talk for a lot longer, but we're going to break you into groups of 3, and you're going to have 9 minutes. And what we ask is that you just reflect on what transpired for you in a particularly meaningful way during this past pilgrimage. If you were not there, but you've been to Chartres before, then just bring in your reflections, your memories. If you're completely new, let's all start by introducing ourselves and getting acquainted. And if you haven't been to Chartres, just say a few words about what brought you on to this call. But we want to bring the community together just to welcome each other and to say hello, and then we'll move on and we'll have some faculty reflections. And then at the end of that, we'll turn to the future and the Global Day of Apology. So Georg, if you want to break us into small groups, that would be the next order of business. Thank you so much. Wow, that was beautiful, everyone. It was so good to see Anne and Jules in my little group, and just to feel the rapport and the coherence once again. So thank you, Garrett, for breaking us up. That's why we're on Zoom meeting now, everyone, so we can share right at the beginning and interactively as the calls go forward. It just makes it much more intimate. So we want to take the next 10 or 15 minutes or so to just hear from various of the faculty and possibly some of the pilgrims, depending. Will be a little bit constrained by time, but it's so important to hear the various voices. I'm going to start with Lynn Bell. Lynn, as you all know, is our astrologer for this past session there in Chartres, and she gives us a morning star report. So Lynn, I just want to welcome you, and anything that you want to say is both in terms of reflection or in terms of where the planets are, please do.
Thank you, Jim. It's great to be here. I was just in the breakout rooms with 2 people who weren't at Chartres this year, but have been at other times. And so that's also great to think of all of you who have been here over the years. We're all connected. We stay connected. And that's a wonderful thing. As probably many of you know, this weekend was a very powerful full moon. And Mercury went retrograde just before the full moon. And it's a very interesting Mercury retrograde. I think it happened very soon after Queen Elizabeth died. And it's almost as though that death, which kind of stopped the world, you know, like suddenly we went out of present time into remembrance. Maybe less so for people in other parts of the world. And it also took me back, because I've been starting to read things about, you know, all this admiration of the queen and the archetypal role she played and her incredible integrity. And at the same time, while honoring that, recognizing that she was the head of a kingdom that didn't always bring the best for the other people in the world who that government touched, so that you can hold both in your consciousness at once, both great reverence, great appreciation, great admiration, and at the same time, the truth of something else that weighs and balances the world in a different way, that we don't have to flip completely into a one-channeled thing. And Mars, as many of you know, has recently entered Gemini and will be there for about 6 months. And Gemini means walking two paths, holding two parallel realities. And not only is Mars in Gemini, but it will retrograde in Gemini at the end of October, and basically be in Gemini in the sign of two paths, two possibilities, two realities, dark, light, mixing what seems good, what seems bad. And there's always a danger of splitting with a sign like Gemini because of its duality, but it isn't necessarily about that. It isn't necessarily about division. And so here we are all living in our parallel worlds with many things going on, brought together in this channel around Chartres and our shared experiences, either this summer or previous summers or future summers, for those who want to come and still haven't, and I hope you will. But just to remember that there are, at the moment, always two sides to whatever we're seeing. And that if we can hold that, if we can remember that, our consciousness will be incredibly rich. And every once in a while we'll slip and we'll forget, and then we'll come back. So thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. I see that Apela's still with us. Apela, do you want to just tell a little bit more about the dreams, any other reflections that you or the dream team have had about the dreaming that we did in Chartres?
Good morning, everyone. This year we had probably the strongest dream group we've ever had, maybe 30 people every morning. And we've just finished up on the post-production of the dreams that we put into video form, and we'll be sending them out probably the end of this coming week. So I think I'll just let it go at that. Okay.
Thank you, Apela. But the dreams were particularly powerful, as Apela said. So we're very eager to hear more about it and to continue our dreaming together between now and our next pilgrimage next August, that we'll say a little bit about later in the program. Ruth, are you with us today? Would love to hear any reflections you might have. Or maybe while we're waiting for Ruth, Kaylin, would you like to say something?
Hello. My reflection was the fact that using the singing bowl, I don't think my singing bowl had been played quite that much over the years, and I thought it was, it came back with a lot of information just from the breathing of everyone, and I thought that was something that was profound for the week. And one note on the labyrinth, because we're going into Musica next year, I'm going to drop something in the chat, and then I'll drop it in the Pilgrim group, that the relationship between the Chartres labyrinth and the Rose window, they do not line up when you lay the rose window over. They're completely different sizes, and the sizes are all off, and the distances are off, and it creates a vesica Pisces, which, if you look at that PowerPoint that I had in Chart on the geometric tritones, that relationship is a vesica produces a certain frequency that activates the stained glass windows in the cathedral. So I'll have something on that next year, but I'll drop the little link with all the questions about the labyrinth that'll explain everything in the chat here. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaylin. Banafsheh, what would your reflections be on our time together?
Well, hello, everyone. It's so good to see so many of you who were with us during Venus Rising. And it's so good to see others of you who've been to Chartres in the years past, and some of you who are planning to join us next year. Good to be with you all. For me, I felt Venus Rising was truly the most transformative of the Chartres gatherings for most attendees, students and faculty alike, that I have been a part of. And it was also my first extended in-person event since the pandemic. And I had forgotten how wonderful it is to be together in person, you know, teaching, learning, sharing. It's truly amazing. I literally felt high from being together and being in Chartres. And I felt like we were undertaking the momentous work of restoring and regenerating love in our individual lives, in the world, and for our beautiful planet. And with V's incredibly moving guidance and the breathing together, I felt like many of us were able to disrobe and literally become naked in front of one another, before one another, so that Venus Aphrodite could rise in her naked glory. And the evolving connection in the WhatsApp group is a testament to the deep bond we began forming together. For myself also, it was the first time that I shared the love breath movements, the movements that we did to the coherent breathing, and doing them in the cathedral for the first time as well. So I'm so grateful for everyone's receptivity and graciousness. And I look forward to sharing deeply like this moving forward.
Thank you, Banafsheh. And I know we've got lots and lots of people on the call today, but I want to just open up some space for any of you who would like to just say a few words about anything particularly poignant that happened to you while we were in Chartres together. Just open up your mic and say something. We'll take about 10 minutes.
Yeah, you can put it in the chat or raise your hand, whatever, however, Georg, you think it's easy.
Well, you can just unmute yourself and speak.
Okay, I will start. Raquel from Spain. And what I want to share with you is how full of love I am, precisely from the experience in Chartres, because the connection, the depth and the heights of the connection with the Divine Mother has softened and make more tender even the connection with the Spirit I had, like from the Father point of view, and now the Mother is also there. So even though I was praying always with Father, Mother, God, yet this Mother, I was saying it like something that was not too embodied. And in Chartres this summer, I want to thank you all because I have really embodied this consciousness of the Divine Feminine. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Raquel. It was so good to see you. Anyone else?
Banafsheh is spinning.
No.
Amazing.
How beautiful.
It was absolutely amazing to be able to spend so much time privately in the cathedral. What a privilege, what an honor, and such a kind of portal. It feels like this between time, like there was the time before Chartres, and then this kind of opening and amazing smorgasbord of sacred dance and sacred song, and just dropping beneath the mind dominating world and having such a deep experience by being there for an extended period of time. I mean, it really requires that spaciousness, and I'm still digesting it. It was powerful, really powerful. I feel like there was before Chartres and now after, and also with the passing of the Queen, it feels like this old school world feels like we've moved through something, and we're entering into this new time, which we're discovering. And it's beautiful to be in this tribe with all of you in this community, discovering what this is.
Thank you, Sana.
I want to honor how we were prepared for our time in the labyrinth, and how we were educated. For me, this was incredibly valuable. I don't come from a Christian tradition. I don't come from a practice of walking labyrinths. They are mysterious to me, much less so now since being in Chartres. But I felt that I was given such initiation, maybe that's the right word. I was given an initiation to what it truly means to walk the labyrinth at the soul level. And I am very grateful for that, Jim, and everyone who contributed to that. I felt that I was able to walk the labyrinth with my intelligence in my feet. Thank you.
Intelligence in our feet. Now that is a worthy goal, everyone. As we walk this earth, to have our intelligence in our feet. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you so much. Stephanie just convened a beautiful 4-day program on Humanity Rising this past week on regenerative health and on the theme of how we turn burnout into buoyancy. And she's convening a course for us in a couple of weeks' time in October that we'll be alerting everyone about. So thank you, Stephanie, so much. Maybe one or two more, and then we'll move on.
I wanted to share that the private time that we had as a community in the cathedral felt so profound as we would walk in the morning at 7:30, and it was only open for us, or in the evening. It really felt like a divine mystery school. It was such an incredible, I don't know, an essence, a precipitation, like an amrit of communion that was really beautiful. And the person I spoke with in the little group, she was in Ohio with 3 other women and created a gorgeous labyrinth there, and was doing that in harmony with us, and being told by the Dark Mother to do that and follow that. That's Rebecca. I think that's her name. But the spilling out of the tentacles of that chalice, it's fascinating and beautiful, and such an amrit, such a nectar.
Thank you, Kala. Thank you so much. Kala that provided the icon at the beginning, around Venus, was one of these. Maybe next time or one of the subsequent months, we'll have Kala talk about Venus and the orbit of the 5 around the sun and so forth. She's a great cosmologist, is Kala. Paula.
Yes, thank you. No, I would like to express my appreciation for the design of bringing us together in advance with the 5.5, bringing that through as a consistency, because I felt the love so strong in the group. I feel like I've met the most just amazing people, and because it was this openness and this love energy that was exuding from everyone, that allowed for all of those experiences to happen with so much joy. And then bridging us together, here in this community, I've personally found the return is a bit of a thud. And it was a little bit difficult. So, and then the ability and the opportunity to get to know everybody in the WhatsApp. There's some amazing things everybody's doing, especially the younger people of the group that are, I don't know, building and painting the yurt and holding ceremony in ways that are just so heart-lived. So thank you for the beautiful weave.
Thank you, Paula, so much. Well, I know there's probably others that would like to speak, but we wanted to keep this to more or less an hour, plus or minus, because we know people have plans for the day. So let's just transition from, the reflections from the past that animate us and inspire us to move forward into the future by just calling up the commitments that we all made individually. I think we all made individual commitments, but Margot, during the final session, also brought forward this idea of a global day of apology. And I want to now turn to that, because I think there's so much coherent, loving energy in this group that to birth something that could take the energy into a global dimension around probably the most important thing that the entire world needs to do right now is both a very humbling reality. It's very challenging. And I want us to just note it. And I would say center our commitment into the fact that we are making this commitment, and know that we therefore are taking on a certain responsibility as a group to manifest something extraordinary in the world that has never been done before. As V mentioned, apology isn't what the patriarchy has been about. And it's often what the victim is forced to do. And so to really feel our way in to what apology actually means, and then how we're going to create a global day of apology, is going to take some deep reflection and some concerted deliberation that will evolve over the next several months. So we wanted to speak about it today in the spirit of inquiry, in the spirit of truth pursued, not truth possessed, because I believe we have to let this spirit work through us in order for all of us to become the kind of vessels that are going to be required for a truly global day of apology to manifest. And that's going to take a deep, reflective inquiry. So I just wanted to state that right at the beginning, and welcome V in, who really, V, you brought apology into our midst. Those of us who read your book on apology were inspired by what you wrote and the experiences that you've had. And I think it was because of your powerful presence during those 3 sessions while we were together in Chartres, culminating in an apology to nature when we gathered for deep ritual at the Mother Tree, that really galvanized. It was the seed kernel. It was the irritant in the in the oyster that I think is starting to form the beginnings of a pearl of a global day of apology on the 26th of May next year. So I just want to welcome you and thank you and ask you to just say anything that you would like to share with the group on this possibility.
Thank you, Jim, and hi everyone. It's so good to see you all. Oh wow. It feels like return to family, you know? It was such a profound and beautiful week on so many levels, and I've been reverberating it just from it ever since. I think this idea of a global day of apology is a really beautiful idea. I think how we do it is critical because it has to be done right. And we have to make sure those in most need of apology are determining this and leading this and driving this. Um, so I think it requires a lot of deep thinking about, you know, how do we bring and make sure that indigenous groups and leaders are at the center of this? How do we make sure that African American and African leaders are at the center of this? I mean, somebody put in the chat something funny about the Queen doesn't do apologies, she expresses regret. And that's exactly the problem. That's exactly the problem. You know, there are many, many people in the world who find this whole week of bowing down to the Queen and celebrate a real affront because they are the survivors of, you know, massive colonialism and genocide and destruction from that empire. And there have been no apologies made, and there have been no attempts to really look at the impact of that colonization and those genocides and really the seizing and the extracting of resources all over the world that have, you know, made the queen and the royals very, very rich, you know. So there's a lot of things to unpack there, and I think part of what we have to look at is who is leading the apology, what does it actually mean, what would the day look like, what would we be doing? I mean, there's so many things to work out, and I think it would be good to get a group together first to just think about who we need to have at the table to be creating this day, who needs to be it seems to me those who need the apology most need to be at the center of this story. And we need to make sure they are driving this. But I think it could be something very beautiful. And I can't tell you how much is coming up around apology right now in my life for me. Like I see it everywhere, like the need, people being stuck, just being stuck. Do you know what I mean? Not able to move forward because they're not getting the acknowledgement or the accountability that they need. And so they're just spinning their wheels. And I think maybe this day could release a lot of people to both make the apologies they need to make, write themselves the apologies they've never gotten, but just to release and get free would be a beautiful, beautiful thing globally. Because my God, how many wars are just repeating the unapology and just creating more need for apology everywhere.
Well, thank you, V.
Yeah.
I think you know, your participation in that, since you brought in the impulse, is so important for the community. And I think that you're right. We now, you know, as they say, in the end, greatness is 2% inspiration and 98% perspiration.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
the impulse now has to be very carefully choreographed, I would say, so that we do bring in, as you're suggesting, the people who need the apology. I mean, this is one of the conversations we had with Apela, you know, who has the World Indigenous Science Network. You know, one idea would be to have indigenous, you know, the Aboriginal peoples from around the world gathering in a certain way, and those of us who've been part of the colonializing just apologize for them on that day.
But we
And,
also need to know from them, like, what they need. Like, is it apology? Is it reparations? Is it reconciliation? Like, I think this requires discussions. And look, hierarchy is patriarchy. And hierarchy is what determines basically the non-apology, because you keep your power by not apologizing. The queen never apologized because that would have been giving away her power, right? Those in the greatest power, you never see them apology. So what we have to look at is like, we cannot replicate this hierarchy in the way we create this day, or we'll be doing more injustice, right? So I think we have to really think like, who do we bring to this, and who do we listen to? You know, who do we open our hearts to? Because maybe they don't want an apology. Maybe they want reparations. Maybe they want, like, I think we have to listen to see what people want and what the form that takes and what it would look like, and who we're, and who this apology is mattering to or serving, like, who is it having an impact on,
Yeah.
And I also want to just say here, one day obviously is not enough, but it's a great start to bring exposure to how we need apology. We need to apologize, and there are apologies that we need to receive.
Totally.
So
And
that's
yes, I think it's like a catalyst kind of day. And
yeah.
it would be interesting if we could have like workshops leading up to it, like, what is an apology? What would an apology look like if you were a Black person? What would an apology look like if you were a woman? What would apology look like if you were a trans person? What would it look like? Like really, this should be something we're studying and deeply reflecting on and thinking about, so that we open this notion that we need apologies as much as we need prayer. We need apologies as much as we need meditation. We need apologies as much as we need dance. Like it has to become part of our rhythm and part of our everyday lives,
Yeah, very good point. Margot Borden, is there anything you want to add, since you were the one that kind of channeled the idea? And I know you've been thinking very deeply about it. What would you add to this conversation?
So yeah, I put a lot of thought into it, and I'm playing around with lots of things, knowing that it's a seed that's going to take a lot of collaborating and deliberating and meditating together to really make it cohesive. As V points out, there's so many dimensions and aspects that need to be taken into consideration. But also thinking, as I wrote down in the chat, of trying to like make a list of activities like that could be family friendly and maybe organization friendly, and things that people and individuals, families and groups can do the other 364 days in the year. So I've got a huge notepad growing, and look forward to sharing it, working together, and giving it 100%.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we could do over the next couple of weeks, I think V, your suggestion and Margot's is a good one. Let's convene maybe a group that would be interested in starting to think this through, because it's going to take quite some discernment to get it right, because this is a very sensitive, I would say, politically charged issue, given the complete, or not complete, but essentially complete absence of apology in the patriarchal system. And when we Googled it, for example, even while we were in Chartres, we thought, is there even a day of apology out there? And it turns out there's one in Australia that was proposed by the Aboriginals. It's the I'm Sorry Day. And they've been doing it only for a few years. So we'd need to get in touch with them and see what their experience is. And then what communities, the African Americans, the Native Americans, the indigenous in different parts, there's lots of people that need apology in this world. And we can't bring them all in. So so there's lots of questions that will require deep collective discernment. But I think with this call today, and I think what's been incubating is the willingness to proceed in a humble way to see what we can do. And Are there any other voices just in the next couple of minutes that would like to express anything about this impulse?
Linda has her hand up. Linda, please.
Hi, I'm very excited about this. And I just wanted to bring into view the recovery movement that makes the distinction between an apology and an amend. An amend is about making it right. You know, that you take responsibility for the harms you've done. You ask the other person to add the harm that they've experienced, and then there's a commitment to make it right. And it's a really good model, you know, that I would introduce. And then also the Maori culture in New Zealand, you know, I think they, you know, the 10 years I was living there, I really believed if they really resolved the bicultural issues that they were working through, it was a model for the world. And one of the things they did was, you know, reinstating the language, reinstating the rituals. You know, it was part of every meeting we had. And, you know, part of that culture was using Waiata song and prayer at the beginning of every meeting we had. And, you know, I think we could benefit a lot from, you know, bringing in some of the Native American traditions into our institutions, which, and I know that's a big stretch, but, you know, it's bringing in the healing and spirituality of the, you know, the Native people of the land. So I'm really excited about this. So thank you for initiating it.
Good. Well, thank you. And I know there's other voices. Maybe just take two very quick ones, Leslie Cox and then Heather Ashamara, and then we'll move on. Leslie.
Yes. I just want to say, let's not forget to include the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom in this as well, you know.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Everything
All
about the
sentient
earth.
beings.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Now, that was one of the things that made our apology trilogy so powerful. It culminated in an apology to the nature at the what we call the mother tree. So thank you for that reminder, Leslie. That's important. Heather Ash?
And just to briefly share, Juan Carlos was part of just an epic, beautiful apology that we did in Thayas Wakan, but he did spontaneously honoring his ancestors and apologizing to the indigenous people there. And so I just want to name that Juan Carlos has done some beautiful work with this. And to also emphasize what Vi is saying of how important it is for us to call in the indigenous and the African and like the people that have been most impacted to lead, not to be invited in for the white people to tell. Like that's got to be so mindfully done. And there's so many resources here that it might be really powerful to create a spreadsheet where we all just share, here's who we know that could be part of the circle to hold the circle. And that it's going to be ongoing over the years. Hopefully this won't be a one time, that this is something that we will all grow and deepen and learn and make mistakes and try again and continue to learn how to apologize in a really deep way. So thank you.
Thank you, Heather Ash. Final word, Vi? Anything?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Oh.
Any final comment?
I think what we should do is do this carefully, slowly, gracefully, not rush. And I like the idea of us all beginning to think about who needs to be at the table leading this. You know, so I think that is stage one, you know. But I think, you know, I don't want it to be one of these things that just becomes like a one-off apology day, if you know what I mean, like where it doesn't have it's almost like sometimes these days becomes things that people do and that's all they do. Do you know what I mean? It's got to have roots, it's got to have substance, it's got to have, and even if that means we take time to really develop this and it happens in another year, that's okay. But we need to really make this something that has roots that go all the way to the bottom, and not where a storm can come and blow it away, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and it's in that spirit that I want to offer Humanity Rising. You know, we have this global broadcast that goes out to thousands of people every day in over 130 countries. And if we spent the next couple of months just formulating and getting the kind of the right chemistry and the right orientation, maybe starting in January, leading up to May, we could have a series of programs on Humanity Rising where we're just calling people into apology, and so that we can both practice, but we can also invite and learn as we grow, so that as you're saying, V, it's not just something on the 26th and you kind of forget about it, but it's a process that we want to bring in to the world in as publicly informed and aware way as we can, so that we can build on the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and what the Maori have done and what's been done in Australia
And what restorative justice is happening in the United
exactly.
States. I mean, there's so many people who are working on various forms of this.
Exactly.
But it's teaching apology as a practice.
Yeah.
And I think that's if we can get apology into the world, into the consciousness, it is the antidote to it's the antidote to patriarchy, and it's the antidote to fascism, because those two things can't exist where there is apology, because there's too much humility. So I think it's worth a deep think. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you all. I can't tell you how exciting this is for something born in Chartres to be taking this kind of dimensionality and depth, and we'll keep each other informed. We'll talk about it in our next community call on the 9th of October. But we wanted to close the session today by talking a little bit about next year. And some of the possible opportunities for gathering in pilgrimage between now and then. So Banafsheh, why don't you come back on and tell us a little bit about what's in store for Chartres Academy in 2023.
Yes, with pleasure. So everyone, next year, we're planning to be there between August 9th and 19th. We're adding one day. We feel like 8 days could be better than 7 days. And the focus is going to be the liberal art of musica, but of course during the feast of the Assumption of Mary, the week of the feast. So with the theme of the Assumption and this marriage of matter and light as well. So sound healing, music healing, this is going to be what we'll spend our time in. And in addition to, of course, other things, dance and movement, meditation, the breathing again, and lectures by various faculty. I want to mention that we've asked Heather Ash Amara to be the director of ritual, and I'm very excited about that. She has accepted. She will be joining us next year and asking for volunteers to help with the ritual. Heather Ash is also planning a pilgrimage to Mexico that I would like her to say just a few words about. Some of us are attending, so it would be wonderful if we can have a mini reunion. Heather Ash, would you like to say some things? And please also share the link.
Thank you. Yeah, really briefly, this has been floating around Ubiquity Wisdom Graduate School for a good decade, is the connection between Teotihuacan and Mexico, just outside of Mexico City, a pyramid complex that was built at like 100 AD and has been this very powerful place of healing and initiation by some of the just greatest minds of the world. And every year I go there many, many times a year, but especially on Day of the Dead. And it's such a powerful time to reconnect with ancestors, with the beloved dead. And just to link this into the apology as well, is that we get to reconnect with the wisdom of the ancestors and also apologize to all the harm that's been done in the past. There's just incredible ceremony and ritual that's there. And so I'm very excited that Banafsheh will be joining in that gym. We've been trying to get there for decades. So if any of you want to get more information, please reach out to me. hello@warriorgoddess.com. And I put in the WhatsApp, I just put the flyer and the information for that. So just feel free to reach out to me and to reach out to my team, and we'd love to share more information with you about this, another type of pilgrimage that's also deeply connected, I believe, to Chartres as well. Mwah.
Thank you, Heather Ash. Thank you so much. Jim, would you like to orchestrate the finale?
Yes, first just to say that, we're conscious that Chartres Cathedral was built by Christians on a Druidic site that had been revered in relationship to the sacred feminine for thousands of years. We're aware that many of you experienced trauma to have anything to do with Christianity or the church. That surfaced even in Chartres while we were there. And it's a very legitimate impulse that I share myself. And so one of the things that we did early on is we juxtaposed our time in Chartres with the what we called then the Pyramid Academy, which allowed people to go to a site that has had nothing to do with any of the colonial religions at all, and came out of the depth of the spiritual tradition of Mesoamerica with a power and profundity that in its own way equals what is done with Chartres, seeking to be essentially a cosmology of a pyramid of the sun and the pyramid of the moon, and different pyramids and different ways of refracting the cosmological reality through human architectural form. And so that's one reason why we wanted to bring this to you, because we're very aware that there's a lot of apologizing that needs to be done, not only by the British Empire in the aftermath of the death of the Queen. It would be a perfect thing for King Charles to do, be something that the Pope should do more broadly, given the doctrine of dominion, etc. And so each year, as we're able, we want to take pilgrimages to other sites in addition to Chartres, because we know that the world is very round, and it's only in the spirit of deep ecumenism that we can really revere the depth of the spiritual genius that has been present in so many parts of the world. And what we're going to be calling up now with this Global Day of Apology are the Aboriginals, the primordial people, the indigenous people that have never left that connection and have kept that connection through the vicissitudes of colonial challenge and near obliterations, such that they're barely standing in the world today, and yet they endure. You remember in Chartres, we had that gentleman that came from the Cathars. And it's worth remembering that the First Crusade was not against the Muslims in Palestine. It was against the Cathars in southern France that had been keeping alive the traditions of Mary Magdalene. That was the first genocide in that part of the period of time. And so many people have suffered. And our challenge, as V and others have said, is how do we offer this impulse into the world, knowing that none of us know very well how to do it? And how do we apologize to others? How do we receive apologies? How do we apologize collectively to the earth? How we do this is going to take a depth of spiritual awareness and maturity, I would say, that maybe has yet to be called up on this planet, and that's why it's never been done. So it's in that spirit of humility and deep gratitude, and in the spirit of the coherence that we achieved together, that we will embark forwards over the next several months to try to do something that will have a global impact. So I just want to thank everybody for bringing this impulse in. And then we thought we would end the program with Matt's drone footage. You remember Matt got arrested on the day of the Assumption by the police as he landed his drone. So we're going to see that footage now. And some of the other collages that he and Katie Amrin, who coordinated logistics, put together. So I will say our goodbyes after that, but just everybody sit back, relax. And this is historic. I believe it's the first time there's ever been a recorded drone footage of Chartres Cathedral, and it happened during our time there. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, everyone. That was beautiful. This whole call has been wonderful. Thank you all so much, and we'll see all of you next month on the 9th of October, same time as we always do it, the second Sunday of each month, where we gather the energy around Chartres. Banafsheh, any final comment?
No, just amazing to see that and see our various experiences, remembering them. I invite everyone to unmute yourself and just send blessings, send love to one another. So much love to you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank
you,
everyone.
everyone.
So much.
Good
Thank
to
you.
see you together.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Bye-bye.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you.
Thank you so much.
Ciao.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lots of love.
Bye. Thank you.
Peace and blessings always.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So excited, don't want to go.
Oh, I know. Bye.
Bye.
Can never get the button out of it.